Wall Street and told the bankers on Wall Street, you get your nose out of the public trough because you got it in there as deep as anybody else. And when I'm president, there'll be no more bailouts or handouts or carve-outs or the like. And I told the public employee unions, you can't expect your members to get better pay and benefits than the people who are paying the bill, the taxpayers. And on down the list, but those are the kinds of changes that we're going to need to make. And let me just close by telling you, in this race for president, every Republican candidate for town, or many of them, are going to come right here or somewhere nearby and tell you many of the same things. They're going to say, look, I'm for reducing government spending. They'll say, I'm for reducing taxes. They'll say, I'm for school choice and accountability and focusing on parents and local and parental decision making. They'll say that they're for public employee pension reform and conservative justices and being pro-life and pro-traditional marriage and dealing with the issues of our day economically. And they're for pro-jobs. But as you listen to that, you might say, well, gosh, they sound the same. What's the difference? What separates these candidates? Well, one of the things that separates the candidates is, have they done any of it? Because as we learned with Barack Obama, there's a big difference between giving speeches and spewing out the words. Any bobblehead can stand up here and spew out the words to you. The question is, can they do it? And one of the questions is, have they done it? And you look at my record in Minnesota, what you'll see is we took spending from historic highs to historic lows. We cut taxes net during my time as governor over 8 years. We were one of the first states in the nation. I was one of the first governors in the nation to lead from seniority pay to performance pay in our schools for teachers. We did public employee pension and benefit and compensation reform before it was cool and popular. I dramatically advanced the pro-life cause in Minnesota to the point where a conservative publication has now called me the most pro-life candidate in the race. I stood repeatedly and consistently and strongly for traditional marriage and co-authored the Defense of Marriage Act in Minnesota, which is still on the books in our great state. And then down the list, we did healthcare reform the right way. No individual mandates, no government takeovers. And then we did those things to get the economy moving again in my state. In post-crash, when I was governor, we had one of the lower rates of unemployment in the country and one of the fastest job growth rates post-crash of any state in the country. So I'm proud of Minnesota in that regard. I want to take your questions, but I want to just close by telling you we can do this. There's a lot of discouragement in the country these days, but it's not unlike what we saw in the late 1970s before Ronald Reagan came onto the stage. And as a country, the way forward may not be easy, but it's not complex. We know what works. We can look back and see the roadmap the Founding Fathers gave us. We can look back and see the lessons that emerge from the chapters of success of our country. We know what they are. And if we went around this room and asked you, what do you value? What do you think works best? And what do you think is most important to you and your family? I think we'd hear stories about faith. I think we'd hear stories about family. I think we'd hear stories about neighborhood and community and your church. I think we'd hear stories about how you started a business or were part of a business and what economic opportunity and jobs meant to you. But I don't think we'd hear many stories about how the government or the bureaucracy transformed your life in some powerful, dynamic way. The point of all that is the brilliance of this country is not in our bureaucracy, it's in our people. And the soul of this country, the spirit of this country, the dynamic strength of this country resides within us because we're free. And when you have government that comes in and makes it so expensive and so slow and so difficult and so challenging, it not only grows their budget, it not only grows their footprint, it weighs down and discourages the American spirit. And that's what Barack Obama and the Democrats have done. And we need to rise up and take it back and get this country moving again. I'm running for president because, like you, I love America. I've got the leadership and the experience and the values and the ideas to get it back to a better place. So I hope you'll join our campaign. We've got an important day coming up at the Ames Straw Poll, and as Eric mentioned, if you haven't signed up, I hope you will on the way out. We've got Dairy Queen blizzards, if there's no other reason. Dairy Queen blizzards will be served at our tent, amongst other things. Some great barbecue. We'd love to have you there. Thanks for coming out this morning. I'd love to have you questions.